Marty, and
Okay,
then
Kim,
Tim.
I'll go
That's right, Marty and Tim, and then Kim. Please join me in thanking them for coming.
Okay, we got our first funding certification in 2001.
What's your organization?
Prince George's Child Resource Center. Started in 92, and by 2000 or so, I thought, really foolishly, we practiced best practices. This was going to be easy. It wasn't, but it was incredibly fulfilling and rewarding, and helped us and helped the board really fill out all those things that you think about, you never put in writing, you want to do it, but you haven't gotten around to it. It helped us reach our goals. I think mine was the last quote on there, where foundations, foundations started to pay attention to us, because being in Prince George's County, and back then, all you heard was, well, we'd like to give to Prince George's, but there's no nonprofit there that meets the standards. Well, we suddenly met the standards, and it opened a lot of doors for us. Yeah, we're still here, but there's only a few now, so the language has changed a little bit. But there are other benefits that I have seen from it, aside from money. And the second one was board members. You attract a more sophisticated board of director who knows what kind of organization that they're willing to associate with. And when you meet those standards and best practices, it's more than somebody saying, do you have directors and officers insurance? They really are looking at what kind of organization are they going to become involved with. And the third one, which I hadn't really thought about, was we're at county term limits. And how do you get this new administration to recognize that you are a quality organization? Well, you tell them, we meet 55 standards of ethics and accountability. And suddenly, their eyes open up. So it has been positive all the way around. Another moment of foolishness is when we went to renew. I thought, we need all our standards, we're gold. Oh, no. It's probably not, it's almost as rigorous. And we've renewed twice. I have to be honest, I'm not looking forward to renewing again, but I will, because it is worthwhile. But it is a rigorous process. So, and with that,
I'm Tim Jansen. I'm the Executive Director of Community Crisis Services. We were first recognized in December of 2004. And I'm happy to say, as of 2 weeks ago, we received our second recertification, so we don't have to go through it for 5 years.
I know that's right.
Which is beautiful. And I am so happy to hear it's going to be online, because one of my notebooks is sitting over there. It's yay thick.
With tabs.
With tabs that are like 1A through 1Z.
And then 2A.
Right, exactly. So it being online is an incredible kind of opportunity moving forward. I took the opportunity. I was a brand new executive director in my agency, and a lot of what was going on in my agency was in my head. And so I still have the file, but it's also electronic. What happens if Tim gets hit by a bus? Who do you need to call? What do you need to do? How are things scheduled? What's the calendar look like? Was all in my head. And with a board with term limits, you have certain folks who are very involved who know all of that, but as they turn over, they don't know unless there's a process. So I sat with the board and I said, I think we need to start the Seal of Excellence process so that the board was as involved in the day-to-day operation of the agency as it's supposed to be. And so that they knew the things they needed to know moving forward. And so that it was no longer just in my head. Fortunately, and highly recommended, one of my board members took on the task of leading the committee. I wouldn't do it without that. Both of my research, the board person initiated the committee and did a great deal of the work. It really, as a board-focused activity, really helped my board connect to the agency and really understand for once, what we do, other than we answer phones all day long. So I thought that was really helpful. In the beginning, I will say, B. Rogers, who's my board chair, and at that point was in another term on my board, she's been 3 rounds on my board now, was the person who chaired it and made it happen for the agency along with some board and some staff support. One of the first things we did when we decided that we were going to move forward on the process is we went and visited with Marty and sat down and had a meeting with Marty about what are we looking at. That was really, really valuable and really, really helpful, so that we really kind of understood what we were getting into. I'm accredited by 2 other agencies. I'm like, oh, it's just an accreditation. Yeah, no. It's not just another accreditation. It is really important that what you're doing all the way through. It really also set my board up to be one of those things that they're not just place card holders. They don't just have a name tag. They really get stuff done. I sat in a training early on when I was starting this process, and somebody from a very successful nonprofit said, you as an executive director should be spending 25% of your time with your board. And I about fell off the chair because where am I going to find that time in the week? At midnight when I'm doing things, and I go to bed before Kim does, because Kim always sends emails at 2:30. You do. So I think it instantly made us recognizable with foundations. There were foundations that started taking note of us once we had it. One of the things, and I can't say the Standards for Excellence made it happen, but within a year of getting the Standards of Excellence, we were listed in the Catalog of Philanthropy, and we hadn't been previously. And so, things, you can't prove cause and effect, but I'm really pretty sure that helped. It's continued to help the organization. I think it helps with funding every time I spell out Maryland Association of Nonprofit Seal of Excellence program with 55, guiding principles in a grant application, and push that. One of the other hats I wear in the world is I do accreditation visits for 2 National Crisis Center member organizations. One of the first questions I ask them when I'm doing governance is, do you have a program similar to the Seal of Excellence in Maryland? Because that's a process that helps you all the way around, not just in your service delivery as a crisis hotline. We do other things, but it's important that these kinds of things are there so that we know we're meeting a standard. Could we be better? Absolutely. One of the awesome and really scary things is after my second recertification, I've got a list 3 pages long of how we could do it even better. And I was like, wow. So I circulated that to the board, and so now they're chewing on that. Mm-hmm. So with that said...
Hello, everybody. My name is Kim Rim, and I am the founder and executive director of the Training Source. We're a workforce development organization, and this year we celebrate our 20th anniversary. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, if I must say so myself. And I found, first of all, when I started the Training Source, the very first dollar I invested in its development was with Maryland Nonprofits. It was the first organization I joined. I took every class I could possibly take, took advantage of all of the things they had to offer, like using their fundraising library, copier machine, all of that. I think people thought I worked at Maryland Nonprofits. I was there so long. And when Standards for Excellence came out, I salivated. I wanted it so bad. I just really, really wanted it. And I have always been an overachiever and, want to perform at the highest level of ethics and accountability and integrity in general, but knew as a small organization, even now we have 6 full-time employees, that this was just something that was almost insurmountable. We want it, but how are you going to make it happen? How do you make it happen? And I had a very committed board of directors that was behind us. They wanted everything that we wanted, but there's only so much that you can do with limited money and limited human resources. And so at one point, every year we have a board retreat or a board staff retreat, and somebody said, rather than just saying what you want to be when you grow up, why don't we start eating the elephant one bite at a time? Let's focus our whole board staff retreat on Standards for Excellence, have somebody come down from Maryland Nonprofits, and let's look at what we have. Let's look at all 55 things and say, what do we already have? And then let's split up a plan, make a plan on how do we get to the rest. So we might do 10 a year for 5 years to get to the whole standards, which is almost like the tiered approach now. And so we said, that's a brilliant idea. And we did that. We had a consultant come down. We went through it and found out we did have 18 of the standards already. So 18 of 55 was pretty exciting and motivational. And we mapped out our plan on what things we were going to do. And in about 3 years, we were going to be ready to fully certify. That was 2007. Later that year, we discovered that the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services had a grant, a capacity building grant, and it was called the Compassion Capital Fund. Don't look it up, it's gone, unfortunately. It was brilliant. And we applied, it was good stuff, exactly. So we applied for that, and we said, we want you to give us money to be able to fast track this because that will help to build our capacity, and we got the grant. So we were able to hire a Maryland nonprofit certified consultant to oversee the process, to walk us through the process, to tell us what we needed to do. And so we were able to, in 1 year, get all 55 policies and procedures in writing, resolutions by the board, all of that. And so in 2008, we were ready to, so it took us about a year. And in 2008, we were ready to submit our application. And in 2009, we got certified. And so we've been certified with, that's why I said I wanted to be last, 2001, 2004, 2009, and the next one in Prince George's County was 2013. So these don't happen every day in Prince George's County. When I first looked at the application and the checklist and all of that, and our board, we keep it all as part of our board recruitment process and the like, I thought, like Mary Ann just said, how long does it take to fill out the form? And you said, how long does it take to fill out the form? Has anybody here ever done the Partnership for Prince George's County self-assessment? That's 16 pages, and most of you all will say, oh my God, that's a lot of questions. That's nothing. That's baby steps, according to the Standards for Excellence. Our application was a 4-inch binder, like he said, a 4-inch binder. And it is very, very, very comprehensive. I mean, everything that you've ever done, they're going to ask you questions about it. So it's not an easy process, but it is possible, and you just have to work toward it. And I really think that the tiered approach is a innovative way to get smaller nonprofits into it because, it really is a big bite to chew. And so I really do suggest that people do that. How was the board involved in the process? As I mentioned in our very first certification process, it was a board staff collaboration. Everybody moved toward it. It was overseen by a consultant who was already certified in the standards. So she was able to say, here are the models, here's the template, here's what you need, and everybody worked together to get it. I can say that we are right now in the middle of our first recertification. And I can also say that I'm about at my wit's end in recertifying because, as Marty just said, you think recertification is going to be easy because you've already shown that you're excellent. But it is not easy. And just when you're thinking that the mail is going to come, the certification comes some more questions about just one more question, just 2 more questions. And so it's stressful getting recertified. And being able to move through the process is difficult, stressful, but very, very much worth it. I can say that the initial board that worked with us is no longer board members because we have term limits. And so those board members are gone, and the new board members, and many of our staff members who were with us when we got it are gone. And so new board members and new staff, I don't think understand the significance of the Standards for Excellence. And it took me a minute to understand that because we give them, Ashley McSwain is my very newest board member. Raise your hand, Ashley. And she's here today to learn more about it. And board recruitment, we talk about the standards, and in board orientation, they get all of the information in their binder. But sometimes hearing is not believing. And so when we get through the whole process, I think to many of our staff and board members, it's a check mark, just like you could have a logo of anything else, like United Way or something like that. And so last year, I decided to take the application into the board meeting, so that they could see, here's the application versus here's the application. Because I think, and they were like, wow, that's the application to go through the process. But I really do think it's very much worth it. We put the seal on everything on our postcards. This is for people who need social services. This is for people who need workforce development. This is for people we want to donate to us, so it's on our letters, on our invoices to go to customers. We proliferate the seal everywhere we go. when we apply for funding and they say, name your most significant accomplishments, we do. It's funny, Marty and I were both at the Catalog for Philanthropy event a few years ago at the same time. Tim just said it. So all three of us are Catalog for Philanthropy certified as well. We have been rejected 3 times from the Catalog for Philanthropy.
Us too.
Right. Once we got standard certified, we can't say what made them say yes the 4th time around, but just hearing you say it, that may have had something to do with it. So we did do it, and many of the funders in the area, like K. Fritz and Weinberg, that a lot of our local nonprofits say we haven't been able to crack the seal on. We have.
Yeah.
And so we really do think it makes a difference. I do think that it helps us to recruit qualified board members, qualified staff members, volunteers that understand what it does for us. We just recently got a grant from a county official, and I wasn't expecting it, didn't know it was coming, but I was sure happy to receive it. And so I saw her. And I said, I just want to say thank you so much for that grant. And she said, when I found out you had the standards for excellence, I said, I'm writing a check and you will always get money from me. I like it. I'll tell you. But those are the kind of statements you want to hear. It really has, I think, improved our operations and our programs. And in a good way and in a bad way. In a good way, I am committed to excellence, and I will say to my staff, I will say to my board that I aim high. I do things in a spirit of excellence. I have high expectations, and I'm not willing to lower them. And I had one employee said, you keep trying to act big. You're a small organization, and you keep acting big. And she is no longer with us.
She can go work for a small organization that wants to be small.
She's no longer with our organization. She's with you. She's no longer with us. Because I know no big organizations that started out and continue to act small. Okay, just like I tell our job seekers, you have to dress and act for the position you want, not the position you have. And I think that's about all I wanted to say, except some of the people said, there was a question about struggle. And I think Hank said it. About some of their customers' struggle, and then Donna came up and talked about struggle. And I just want to make it clear that a lot of times people join a church and they say, now I'm saved, why am I still having problems? Mm-hmm. And just because you become Standards for Excellence certified doesn't mean you will not struggle. Okay? Struggle is still part of our DNA. Right. And I think what the Standards for Excellence does is help us be more resilient and help us to bounce back during tough times, because we're in a recession, we're nonprofits, we're in the Washington region where we're not Washington and we're not Baltimore, so we still are stuck between a rock and a hard place. So there's still struggle, but I think it helps us get through the struggle.
It also, I think, one of the things I just was thinking about, I think it gives you an opportunity when you're recruiting board members to let them know you have to be at meetings, because we're going to get held to a standard, to a policy that we've set.
Exactly.
This is what we need from you, and if you can't, that's great. There are other ways to participate, but to be a board member, there are critical places you need to be, and the standards help you enforce that. If you're not already enforcing it, as many of us do, and it's 9th on the list, because there are 8 proposals that are due that day. But it really does give you a focus where you can say, no, we have the standards, this needs to take place. We just removed a board member for specifically that purpose and moved them somewhere else because they don't have the time commitment, and it just gives you, something to back you up and go, no, we have to meet this, and so this is what we're doing. So.
I was thrilled when Donna took on this project because the 3 of us were kind of swimming through the mud on our own. And although we've painted a picture that it's tough, and it is, I have to tell you that the staff at Maryland Nonprofits is really supportive. Yep. I remember when Tim came in, he says, well, I don't have that policy. I said, it doesn't matter. As long as from the time you put in the application on, you follow it. That's what the staff is looking for. So they are very, very supportive. It's not a gotcha. It's what can I do to help you process. So, and I was lucky at the point that I took this on that I could afford a consultant. Today, no way. But the fact that Donna is and HSC is playing that role is fabulous.
Very, very helpful.
Let me just say something about Donna while she's standing there. The reason we have a Human Services Coalition is because of Donna and Dorothy Bailey. And in about 2001, our nonprofit sector in Prince George's County was awful. It was disjointed, disconnected, and dysfunctional. All the disses. And at that point, Dorothy Bailey was a county council member, and Donna was the chief administrative officer for Health and Human Services for Prince George's County, and they decided to have a nonprofit summit at Prince George's Community College. And I went to that summit. And at the summit there, everybody, were you there, Tim? Mm-hmm. Everybody showed up. And it was really, really good. And the last panel of discussion was funders from Washington. And they talked about what Marty just said. We don't get good applications from Prince George's County. We don't get enough applications from Prince George's County. It was just like, you just are awful here. And and so at the end of the presentation, they opened it up for questions and answers. And some of us got up and said what we had to say. Like, you need to come to Prince George's County and see what we're doing. And as a result, at the end, when they were giving their final remarks, Dorothy and Donna said that it would be a sin and a shame for us to have spent this full day together talking about what we need to be doing, and then for everybody to go back in their little holes and stay by yourself and think that you're going to grow and anything is going to change. And so I'm going to challenge you all to start meeting as a group and doing some different things to strengthen our sector in Prince George's County. And who would be willing to host the next meeting? And I said, I'll host the next meeting. I have a room. And so all these people show up at my office, and we keep waiting for them to show up, and they don't. And so, it was at my place, and so somebody said, well, who's leading this meeting? I said, well, I think that they're coming. They took care of us the first time. I think they're coming. And so somebody said, no, they said, you're the president. And I said, they said, I'm the what? And so I was the first president of the Human Services Coalition, and I'm happy that we're about 12 or 13 years old, and I want to thank you for making it happen. And I just said that to say it would be a sin and a shame for them to offer the standards assistance for our county nonprofits and you all not to take advantage of it.
Because the truth is, if you're not meeting level one, and Don and I have said this regularly, you shouldn't be in business. You really shouldn't if you're not meeting level one, or you're not getting to level one relatively quickly. It really is the basics. Mm-hmm. I'm working on putting it together with a group of folks for HSC, and it's not really all that difficult, because if you're not doing it, you shouldn't be in business.
Well, first, before we're going to take questions, but can we encourage them again? It was so wonderful. And we are going to take questions. A couple of things I would say is we couldn't be officers. We worked for the government. We were not nonprofit. We were Dorothy and I.
They were relieved.
We were relieved. We were like, okay, here. But a couple of other things is, first thing, the quality of nonprofits in Prince George's County is a really huge kept secret. You understand what I'm saying? It's huge because we are delivering, many of us, good services. And we have not been able to break through the barrier to some of the funders and other people. And so this is, I think, an opportunity to do that. And then the second thing is, one of the things that myself and Hillary have been doing is meeting with the county council people and talking about the standards of excellence and talking with other county officials. And they are pleased because they look at that list of standards and they say, oh my gosh, this is exactly what we want people to have, exactly what we want them to have. And so and one county council person who will remain nameless said, can I post this list on my website and just say, if you want to come and ask me for money, how they have that money, that 90 grand, that they said, then we want you to meet some of this before you, come in and ask us. And the tiered approach, I applaud it because I'm not sure HSC would be applying right now if we were applying for Tier 3, because there are 3 of us on staff and 4 of us with our reservists. And by the time you finish, those of you who run 1 and 2 and 3 person jobs know that this is not high on your list. So our effort is going to be to, we've already started negotiating with one of the trained consultants from the Institute who will work here in Prince George's County with us. That's right. Isn't that good for one of the consultants? So our goal is to have you apply, and the applications will be going out next week, so you can call our office and get on the list. You will apply to get what we're calling a scholarship to apply for Standards of Excellence. And there is an application process. We've already set the date, though, with Amy for this first training, June 25th, which will be the Path to Excellence, which I kept calling PATH for some reason, because I think in terms of roads, I guess. But it's a good. So if you're accepted and you are invited to attend that training, that first training, it has to be you and a board member. You keep hearing us talking about board members. Board members are critical to this. And they are critical to the organizations. Every time Hillary and I go and do trainings, coaching, and technical assistance, we are finding issues with the boards. Because they are great people. They are great people. But they may not be at the level that you need to take you to the next level. And I'm being tactful and nice. But it's the truth. You know what I'm saying? So it may not be at that level yet, okay? And we've got to help those board members who are good, well-meaning people to be the board that you need them to be, so that you can be the director and run the programs that you need to run. So the June 25th event, all day long, will be in Prince George's County, so you don't have to go to Baltimore or anyplace else. It'll be here. And it'll be 2 people from each organization that's accepted into this first class. Now, these are classes, so we realize we'll be doing some of these all year. Part of that is driven by our funding, but we're excited about this opportunity, and so we'll talk a little bit more about it. And I think I saw Tonia's hand first, did I?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Tonya Wellens, thank you. This is very, very useful and informative. My question is, at what stage in an organization's life should they start considering standards of excellence?
Good question. I defer to you all or Amy. I wish we had done it first.
Right. I was going to say, I teach how to start a nonprofit.
Would you repeat the question?
Yeah, she said at what stage in an organization's life should it consider applying for the Standards for Excellence? And my response is, I teach how to start a nonprofit organization at Prince George's Community College, and I include the same little, this one.
The other one.
Yeah, I include that on my show and tell table, and I include it in my presentation, and I tell people to begin with the end in mind. If you want to be sustained, if you want to be relevant, you need to plan to be excellent from the very beginning.
Well, and I'm going to tell you, the Tier 1 particularly, I had started when I first came to HSC, when someone would call our office and say, I'm interested in starting a nonprofit, I said the same thing you said, which was no. Don't do that. See if I can talk you out of this. Because we have a lot of them. Join with somebody else.
I say that.
So what are you thinking?
Exactly. I say that too.
I actually, just so that I could tell them what they really needed, started walking them through the Standards for Excellence and saying, well, and this is what an excellent nonprofit does. I wasn't saying that was everyone in our county and we were all doing it right, but this is what one should do. And that is sort of what led me and started pushing us in this direction, because you should start at the beginning. I didn't know if you had anything different.
Donna?
Yes. Oh, Marty.
I not only did I at that time go through the standards, but I was also asked to sit on the board of Maryland Nonprofits, which I did for 6 years. And for me, it was pure education, because every time they did a board report card, oh, I forgot to do that. We have to do a board report card. We have to do this. We have to do that. So the combination of taking classes and reminders at Maryland Nonprofits plus doing this really set in cement the best practices for your organization. So I would say go through the list, apply for this, and I don't know that it's too early. If you've gotten your 501c3, it's probably a great time to start Tier 1.
And I would use it to drive your board calendar.
Right.
And your strategic planning process. As you're setting it up, we're not doing evaluation or whichever piece is the most stringent and difficult to do. You put that as a goal 2 years out. But there are some of those things that really in the beginning you can knock out pretty quickly. And the other thing, and Kim and Marty would do the same thing, I'm sure, is if there's a policy you don't have, don't reinvent the wheel.
Exactly.
Maryland Nonprofits has it, or we have it, and get them all.
Exactly.
Because I certainly didn't reinvent the wheel. When I needed a policy, I reached out to Maryland Nonprofits, or I reached out to the folks that I respected in the community, and they had them. And you can just. It's so much easier to edit somebody else's stuff than to create it from scratch.
And you should know that Tim is a board member, and he is leading HSC's Standards for Excellence, because it really should be a board member.
Should be.
And we're doing that.
Can I also add, any time is the perfect time to kind of embrace these things. And if you do it right when you start out, before you've given yourself a chance to maybe handle a conflict of interest in a way that's less positive, put yourself in a better position.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Rather than fixing some things. And we're not advocating that Standards for Excellence advocates perfection. But
That's
like
right.
Kim said, it puts in place a framework so that you can be resilient.
Exactly.
You can do these things in a really good way.
And one of the positive things that we did was we assessed some of the trainings that we offer in a year through HSC. The different speakers we have at luncheons, the member trainings we have, and we're looking at them to make sure that they are consistent with, again, what is an excellent nonprofit. And so you're going to see all of the linkages as we go through this next fiscal year of our trainings and our luncheons and even our affinity groups. But we do think that the training and the coaching, particularly the coaching from the consultants, will be very beneficial. And we have found some people who want to fund that and to fund us to do that for nonprofits in the county.
I know
Yes,
outside of individual expense, what was the expense to apply to be certified for your organization? Did they differ?
In terms of the resources used
No,
internally, or the fees?
The application.
The application
Gosh,
process.
I don't remember.
Yeah, it's different
Yeah,
based on
your budget.
It's based on your budget, but it is online, and
It's not outrageous.
Right, it's not. It
It's
is
really
not
not.
outrageous.
Well, it depends. I
God,
thought,
no, it's not even
I thought it was
close to
expensive.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
At the time, I'm sure you did.
It was less than my American Association of Suicidology accreditation, so I thought it was reasonable.
Can
So.
you guys give us some numbers?
I think the lowest is,
One.
I was just saying,
Four.
for Tier 1, it's in the 100s.
It is in the 100 for Tier 1.
But for who started,
That might
Oh,
be
no.
what I
for
paid too. I
starting
don't remember. It
full
didn't feel like a lot.
certification, I think the lowest is 350.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
And when I looked at
It is on a sliding scale, so
Yeah.
the largest organizations pay more.
Right. And when we were looking at putting our budget together, so many of our organizations are on the lower end of their total budget. And since it's driven by your budget size, it was very reasonable when we put, and I can't remember the total number that we're looking at grants.
And our members pay significantly less than those who are potential members.
I would also say that the opportunities that are attached to it more than pay for it. You know, I remember not even blinking when I wrote the check because it wasn't outrageous. So.
We did have one shocker, and that's why it's important to read everything. Like
Yeah.
they say on the test, read everything before you start anything. Is we had already gotten the second grant to get the consultant. We're halfway through the process, and we were so small then that we were not mandated to do a financial audit. But to get Standards for Excellence certified, you had to do a financial audit, and they've since risen the number. But they had like a 200,000 or something, right? And so we wouldn't have had to do it, and that was $6,000. But we were too deep in to say forget it, so we had to we had to find $6,000 that we weren't planning to spend to continue with the application process. That was hard.
I'm sure that's hard to do.
Exactly.
$6,000 unbudgeted money. Okay, any other questions? And getting back to your question, I don't know, Marianne, if you're, okay, so the question,
You got your answers.
I'm sorry?
I mean, that's a start. You go online, you fill out an application, and somebody contacts you. They physically come to your office and audit you, look at your personnel policies, look at other things, and kind of.
No, that's part of your application.
No.
Yeah.
Yes, would you give the short answer?
Okay, so organizations can go online. We have starter kits available online. You get a starter kit for the full application, or you get a starter kit for tier 1. The application is provided as well as step-by-step instructions on what you need to do. You would turn in the application, and then it undergoes a 3-step review process. First, it's reviewed by staff, and at the end of that, you get a letter from our staff saying, we reviewed your application and we have these questions.
Right.
Then you answer
3 steps on each.
and then they're reviewed by 3 volunteer, anonymous peer reviewers who don't have a conflict of interest with your organization. And they are reviewing the documents. At this moment, there's not a mandatory site visit component. That may change over time, but at this point, there's no site visit as part of the program. And then finally, the Ethics Standards Committee, which is kind of our leadership group for the effort, reviews the findings of the peer reviewers, and they make the final decision. And Marty has been part of that group as well in the past. And there's all kinds of conflict of interest and confidentiality policies in place so that, for instance, Marty's not reviewing her own application or any group that she's on the board or anything like that. You recuse yourself from any potential situations.
And the